We do want to go right to the phones, though. We got some calls coming in.
Yeah, let's go to Randy, who's calling in Pennsylvania on line 3. Randy, you're on the air.
Yesterday, I was watching the news. There's a lady named Paula Collins, and she said on TV that anybody, MAGA people, who post anything on social media, posting false information, needed to be put in re-education camps.
Yeah, we actually have the sound from Miss Collins, the candidate in the House. She's running against Elise Stefanik, our good friend there. So let's play it because did she actually say on a radio broadcast, or did she know she was a Zoom call to supporters? So she thought maybe she was in a more private setting. You never are if you're speaking to anyone on any device that can be recorded, which is basically everywhere now. But let's take a listen.
Even if we were to have a resounding blue wave come through, as many of us would like, putting it all back together again after we've gone through this MAGA nightmare and re-educating, basically, which that sounds like a rather a re-education camp. I don't think we really want to call it that. I'm sure we can find another way to phrase it.
Yeah, so we want to call it something differently than the communist Chinese would or the North Koreans, Logan, but we need to put everybody inside. I mean, and this is
really
again
going to help lower the
so
rhetoric.
what Randy heard is right. I just want to make sure people understand. She heard everything correctly.
Right.
And this is, we want to put you in a mandatory re-education camp and rewire your brain. This is like when people joke about how one day they'll say, if you support MAGA, you're somehow, they will say that's child abuse.
Yeah, and this is someone running for Congress.
I mean?
This is
not
not
criminal or somebody. You won't be. You're not a responsible human to raise children.
Parent. Yeah, this is. I mean, the truth of this is though, this is someone running for Congress.
Right.
This is not some random person on the internet. This is someone who seriously
won a nomination.
Won a
party's
right.
nomination.
It's insane. I mean, that when you hear that, it's really pretty disturbing.
Pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
I think again, it is extremely.
But it's rhetoric that would only happen also on really one side. I feel like you would not hear that the other way. You would not hear the conservative candidate saying we need to take all of those we need to take all of the woke leftists and put them in re-education camps. I don't think people would say that. I would hope not, because that's simply not how we do things in America. It's really an unfortunate time when you hear that kind of rhetoric come out.
What is going on out there, peeps? He is absolutely right. You don't hear this kind of rhetoric coming from people from the left. They don't go around talking about putting people into re-education camps. Anyways, there's been a couple of things that have developed regarding our Second Amendment, which I think is interesting because you have a group of people claiming that they're protecting democracy while trying to destroy our Constitution. It is obvious as day when they want to try to put you in the re-educational camp that they're following in the footsteps of a lot of communist leaders. Meanwhile, cloaking themselves in the American flag, they're just fake, man. And they're very dangerous. So let's go ahead and get right into this. The other day I played this and it drew a whole lot of people's attention real quick. Let's play it one more time so you can hear it.
What can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, they want to kick it to Congress. So it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025 to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have Not many cases to look at every year. Not that much work to do. A huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means. And I'm glad that Sherilyn's creating her new center so we can bring that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The people on the left, the Democrats, the liberals, they absolutely positively count on their voters being low-informed individuals. Most people are too lazy to actually do the research. Jamie Ratskin over here claiming that they are trying to erase the 14th Amendment, Section 3, has to deal with the insurrection. Nobody has been charged with the insurrection, so there's no way for them to be ignoring the insurrection. But that's what he does. He just goes out there and says, 14th Amendment, Section 3, they're just trying to erase it. Why don't you go ahead and explain to people in detail exactly what 14.3 is? But he doesn't. And I said that this guy means business, and people are going, well, no, that's kind of rhetoric. Well, even if it is, he shouldn't be saying it, but it's not. He means it. Firebrand leftist Jamie Redskin said Congress must disqualify Trump, predicted a civil war conditions. I told you in 2020 that the Democrats had been working with the Pentagon on a what-if scenario. What if they went in there and removed Trump? How could they prepare for a civil war? They already had this in their mind mentally. They know people are not going to tolerate them doing this to Trump once again. You see it right here. So it's going to be up to us on January the 6th, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. Far left Jamie Raskin says. He's been real radicalized, all right? He is pushing this communist agenda, and he has no problem with it. But people shouldn't be comfortable with this. All hell should be breaking loose. People on both sides should be condemning this, but they're not. I told you, the people on the left have already been practicing with the Pentagon on civil war scenarios. Goes on to say, if you listen to U.S. Rep. Jamie Raskin, a Democrat, the real insurrection will be led by the Democrats, and it will begin on January 6, 2025, should the American people dare to elect former President Donald Trump president again. Yeah, what Jamie is talking about is an insurrection, because you're bringing in the military. In order for it to be an insurrection, you have to bring in the military. There has to be a plan. None of that was there. In a video clip making the rounds Monday on social media, the far-left firebrand laminates what he characterizes as a lazy U.S. Supreme Court interfering with Democratic Party's plan to interfere with the 2024 election. In case you haven't noticed, the Supreme Court has been doing what they're supposed to do, protect and enforce the Constitution of the United States. And so the Democrats have not been winning a lot of court cases. And so instead what they do is talk about stacking the courts with people who think the same way they do, changing laws so they could change this country, or getting people to rise up against the Supreme Court and put pressure on them. That's their response to not getting their way. So if this guy thinks that slapping some bodyguards around people is going to help their side out, they're sadly mistaken. I'm already surprised at the amount of tolerance that the people in the United States have put up with all this kind of crap so far. But eventually, I figure they're going to get tired of it, and you're going to see people start to rise up. And it seems to me like that day is coming. And to show you how prepared these people are to try to stop you, look what this rat has put forward. H.R. 6981, Preventing Private Paramilitary Activity Act of 2024. He wants to ban militia. Listen to what this guy wants to do. Ban militia groups. Ban people from starting militia groups. The Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Infringed, actively break the terms of a law or agreement. Act so as to limit or undermine something. In other words, nothing that the government says to keep the right of the people from bearing arms. It's so funny when I hear people constantly say, well, there's gray areas when it comes to the Constitution, our Bill of Rights. We're not sure what our founding fathers meant. Yeah, I can tell you exactly what they meant in everything that they've done in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Everything in there is meant to keep the people of the United States free. Keep government small. Make sure everybody is aware that it's the people that allow the government to exist, and the people are the ones with the power, not the government. Like I said, they're already out there violating our rights. They've done a great job of violating our free speech rights, and now they're trying to violate our Second Amendment rights. And a wise man once said,
the First Amendment is first for a reason. The Second Amendment is just in case the first one doesn't work out.
Exactly. In my first video, I said, when do we know we're at that point? When is enough enough? They try to censor Americans by using social media platforms to censor us. They constantly attack our Second Amendment, and they try to conflate everything. So they're saying the only time that people have the right to bear arms is when you form a militia, but at no other time. And since you're not forming a militia, you shouldn't have the right to carry a gun, which is wrong. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. In other words, a free country. How could people then get together to form a militia to fight back if they're not training? We have to constantly be in a state of preparedness. And taking away our guns or trying to find ways to manipulate it or making people register the guns so you know where to go exactly to find people who have guns so you can take them away is wrong. It violates our Second Amendment rights. Everything about the Bill of Rights, everything about the Constitution is meant to keep the people free. There's no confusion about what they're saying. A well-regulated militia, in order for them to be a well-regulated militia, so they could be prepared, if necessary, to secure a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed upon. There's nothing that these people should ever do to pass laws to keep us from bearing arms. If you start nitpicking the law, then after a while, you start giving these people an inch, they start taking a mile. So having the right to bear arms, to use your gun, to hunt with, allows you to get familiar with the weapons that you're going to use in case you need to form a militia. That's why it's important for the citizens to have the right to bear arms. Here's the other argument that I think is interesting. The militia of the United States consists of all able-bodied males of 17 years of age and except as provided in Section 313 of Title 32 under 45 years of age who are or who have made a declaration of intent to become citizens of the United States and of female citizens of the United States who are members of the National Guard. So the classes of militia, there are two. The organized militia, which became our National Guard, and naval militia. And the unorganized militia, which consists of members of the militia who are not members of the National Guard. That means the citizens, you, me, people who are not part of the National Guard. The National Guard is armed, they're trained, they are the militia. Unorganized militia, these are people who are not part of the National Guard. The Second Amendment is to keep us all armed, period. The point being, you can't just take a handful of people and say, look, this is our example of why you should strip 329 million people of the right to bear arms. Because guns save more lives than take lives. They're going to show you examples of people doing mass shootings, and sometimes those mass shootings include children. But do they ever talk to you about the other side of things? The over 2 million lives that are saved every year because of guns? They never talk about that side of the equation. Never. And this has already been settled in the Supreme Court. District of Columbia versus Heller. Heller was a police officer. He wanted to be able to carry his gun off duty for safety reasons. And he filed for a permit and he was denied. This case went all the way to the Supreme Court, which Heller won 5-4 in his favor. Justice Scalia wrote the majority, stating that the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to possess firearms. The prefatory clause regarding militia does not limit or expand this right. The ban on handguns in homes and requirements that firearms be non-functional violates the individual's rights. So Justice Scalia was the main point on this particular case, and he's always been a pro-Constitution, Bill of Rights kind of person. You were allowed to have a gun in your house, but it had to be disassembled, trigger had to be locked. You know, the whole point is to have the gun that's assembled and the bullets next to it. When need be, you can just load it up and protect yourself. And that includes against a tyrannical government. So yes, the Supreme Court went in great detail to explain the Second Amendment rights and why it cannot be infringed upon and how the people had the right to carry arms. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights already give us those permissions. I don't think you should have to register your guns just because if we are armed for the purpose of fighting a tyrannical government, why should my gun be registered? If the purpose of the Second Amendment is to make sure that the citizens are armed to fight a tyrannical government, then what good does it do registering your gun, letting that very government know who has guns and who doesn't and where to reach these people? Does that make any sense to you? Anyways, this whole write-up is very interesting. I will leave a link for it down below so you guys can go check it out. Anyways, this is National Guard, and you can go through here and see perfect examples of why it is the United States citizens should be armed at all times. It's to keep this country free, period. Also, Facts Matter with Roman here from the Epoch Times did a good job of covering this. I will leave a link for it for you guys to come check it out. So anyways, again, the left is attacking our Bill of Rights, our Constitution. Not only is it important for us to be armed against a government that's tyrannical, but here's even more proof that the Dems are pushing us towards a communist country. This guy wants to pass H.R. 6981, Preventing Private Paramilitary Activity Acts. He wants to do away with the part of the Second Amendment about those individuals who are not part of the National Guard. He wants to make it illegal for you guys to own arms. If you are not part of the National Guard, in his opinion, you shouldn't be able to own guns. To amend Title 18, United States Code, to prohibit unauthorized private paramilitary activities and for other purposes. In other words, you can't drill, you can't go out target shooting, you can't target practice, you can't get together in a group. It is ammunition, armed forces, dangerous weapons. Remember, it's going to be their definition of what these things are. So any semi-automatic gun like AR-15s, they're going to want to outlaw them. Explosive and incendiary devices, firearm, large capacity ammunition feeding devices. So when the Second Amendment came about, there's no doubt that the founding fathers wanted to make sure that any type of guns that are being used by our military, the citizens have the right to match those guns. So when they wrote this, they were only talking about firing off muskets. So let me get this straight. The founding fathers thought it would be a fair way to fight back a tyrannical government by using muskets to fight somebody with a fully automatic gun. Is that what you're saying? No. They wanted to make sure that the American citizens could fight a tyrannical government, keeping us a free state. And one of those ways to do that was to be able to fight back fair and square by having the same types of guns that our military had. Large capacity ammo feeding devices, means of magazines, belt, drum, feed strip, or similar devices that has a capacity of or that can be readily stored or converted to accept more than 10 rounds of ammunition, but does not include attached tubular devices designed to accept and capable of operating with 22 caliber gun. That's just one step above a BB gun. That's why I was showing you there are two types of militia. One is organized, which is your National Guard and naval militia. And the other one is the unorganized, which is just regular everyday folks. So they're trying to strip that away. This term, private paramilitary organization, means any group of 3 or more persons associating under the command structure for the purpose of functioning in public or training to function in public as a combat supporter, law enforcement, or security service unit. They're trying to strip away our Second Amendment rights and prevent private citizens from owning guns. So how could we as American citizens be prepared to form a regulated militia to fight a tyrannical government if they strip away our access to guns and our ability to get familiar with how to use these particular guns? So I will leave the link for this so you guys can go check it out. Roman covered it here so you guys can come listen to what he has to say. So I was saying that, look, people have got to wake up and pay attention to which political party is trying to change the laws and remove your constitutional rights. The Constitution was written in a way that gives all the power to the people, and if at any time the government starts to become tyrannical, the Constitution explains our rights as well as what it is exactly we're supposed to do. It makes it very clear that these rights can never be infringed upon, period. And if the government challenges these rights, well, then the people should be very concerned about this government, and we need to take the steps to protect the people. More and more of the people in the Democratic Party are trying to slowly but surely strip away these rights. Their biggest concern is the Second Amendment. They absolutely know that Americans are the most armed people in the world. They understand that together as citizens, we make the world's largest army. I think there's 220 million armed American citizens in this country. There is no army like us out there. Democrat Jamie Ratskin put forward the H.R. 6981, trying to make it illegal to form militia groups. Remember to pay attention to which political party or person is trying to remove the rights of the people. The Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed upon. There's no doubt that the Constitution was written in a way that gives the citizens the right to self-governance and the right to do what it takes to make sure that we stay a free country. There has been several challenges against the Constitution recently with sweeping efforts to change or ignore these protections. What we're noticing is that the Democrats are not even following the Constitution. Not only that, when the higher courts give them orders, absolutely ignoring them. Go look at Fannie Willis' situation. Higher courts told her what to do and she ignores them. She was given a subpoena to show up to a hearing and she ignored it. And what is happening to her? Nothing. That judge that went after Trump for fraud, claiming that he's overstated some value on his properties and are trying to take his property away, higher courts gave him orders and he ignored them. So they're not even paying attention to the higher courts. We are in a really bad situation. My thing is, what happens to these people when they do that? Openly violate people's constitutional rights. When the higher courts tell them to do something and they ignore it, then what? Because nothing is getting done. Where they're violating these rights is in the state of New York and the state of Georgia, knowing that nothing's going to be done to them. Because what politicians are going to go after them? What higher courts are going to force them to do anything? They're all Democrat aligned. Our government, along with social media platforms, censoring our free speech, claiming they were stopping dis and misinformation. So they were censoring anything from the 2020 rigged election and the RONA, people challenging it, memes against political candidates. Now you got people like this idiot over here in California wanting to put people in jail for making political memes. The Biden and Harris Misinformation Board, remember this? Opened up a censoring department of the government. Without the American people knowing this, we know they violated our rights. What has been done about this? Nothing. When do we say enough is enough, that we're realizing that our government doesn't give a shit about our Constitution nor our Bill of Rights, and they are openly violating our rights, and they don't care? There are some people on YouTube that I want to turn you guys on to. Colion Noir, he's pro-NRA, and not only that, he covers all the laws. This should be a concern to us. This is Armed Scholar. Armed Scholar goes over all the current cases, Second Amendment rights. Look at all the cases this man is covering. For the most part, the Supreme Court has been making decisions to help protect our Second Amendment right. Every day he's reporting on court cases. He's somebody that I think you guys will be interested in. If you want to learn more about court cases involving our Second Amendment, this man definitely covers them. He does a great job at this, all right? So I'll leave a link for him as well. Our Bill of Rights are not to be infringed on at all. And I'm sure there's people out there that can make cases one way or another. But when you start giving them an inch, they'll take a mile. They'll pervert the law. They'll change the law. They attack the wordings of the law. They'll do whatever it takes to get their way. But when you have a group of political people running around claiming that there's an individual trying to destroy democracy, but then their very actions are attempting to destroy democracy, then you really need to rethink about who you're listening to. What people or political group is trying to censor free speech, trying to take away our free speech rights, claiming that there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, hurting the country, therefore, those rights should be taken away. They should be censored. Which political party is doing that? Which political party is trying to end the part of the Second Amendment that pertains to unorganized militia, the American citizens being able to arm themselves? Which group constantly puts bans on weapons out there? Which group's constantly trying to force us to register our guns? Registering the guns doesn't mean shit. All that does is tell the very government that's tyrannical who has the guns, where to go get them at. So you tell me, in your opinion, what you think is going on here when you have Jamie Ratskin telling the whole world that Trump has violated the 14th Amendment, Section 3, that he committed an insurrection, when nobody has ever been charged of insurrection, not even Trump. But the Democrats have been trying to push that agenda that Trump has committed insurrection. But just because they say it, don't mean it's real. Nancy Pelosi's daughter openly admits that they know these people didn't commit an insurrection, but that's the direction we're going to. You have to have a plan. There was no plan. You have to have armed military. You have to have a plan that tells you what they're going to do when they get in there. None of that happened. Nobody was armed. There was no plan. It's not an insurrection. I think he's emboldened by what he's saying is because, like they claimed in 2020, they had already practiced with the Pentagon a scenario in which they would go through and remove Trump out of office forcefully. If they were practicing that in 2020, there's no doubt they've been preparing for it this whole 4 years. So they must feel emboldened enough that even though they're outnumbered in the Senate and in the House, they don't care. they feel like they can get our own military on their side and go after Trump. When you see Ratskins making comments about how in 2020 they prepared for a civil war and they were preparing to remove Trump out of office, even if we voted him in, and now they're doing the same thing for 2024, that even if we vote him in there, they don't care. They're going to remove him. And him saying that they know they're going to cause a civil war. They know it, that they need bodyguards because a civil war is going to take place. And then trying to pass a House resolution bill that would make it illegal to form militia groups that are not part of the National Guard. They're the same party that wants to take away your guns. They're the same party that wants to censor what you say. They're the same party that wants to put you in jail for memes. So again, put down below how it is that Trump is the one destroying democracy. Anyways, I look forward to hearing what you have to say. I'm out.